A pleasant morning to everyone, to our faculty, staff, students, alumni, partners, and distinguished guests. Welcome to the second part of the College of Public Affairs and Development's anniversary celebration. I am Guinevere Madlang Bayan, a university researcher from the Center for Strategic Planning and Policy Studies, CPAf, and I will be your moderator for today's webinar. With the theme Forging Leaders for Institutional Governance and Development, CPAf fully recognizes its vision to become an academic institution with distinctive excellence in development studies and governance in support of national development goals in agriculture and rural sectors and communities in transition. For today, we are going to talk about the Mandanas Ruling and what kind of leaders are needed for its efficient and effective implementation. This topic is timely since this is set to be implemented this 2022. Our program for today will be in conjunction with the university's UPLB Halalan 2022. Last week, we started our celebration with Dr. Clarita Carlos, who talked about leadership, governance, development, and how to choose your leaders. And next week, on February 11, for our closing event, our topic will be on the role of higher education institutions in forging leaders. So before we proceed with our program, we will just have a few reminders. For our panelists, we would like to request you to please mute your microphones during the program, except during the part for which you will speak. For all our participants, you may use the chat box for your greetings and comments. For those in Zoom, you may key in your questions for your open forum later using the Q&A box. Please keep all conversations equitable and done with good intentions. This online event will also be recorded and is currently being shown live at CPAF's Facebook page. To officially start our program, I call on everyone to pay respect as we sing the Philippine National Anthem. Again, welcome everyone to CPAF's 24th anniversary celebration, Forging Leaders for Institutional Governance and Development. And now, to set things on the right track, we will have no less than the Dean of the College of Public Affairs and Development, Dr. Rowena D.T. Bacongis, to deliver her opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Gwen. To our speakers for this morning, Attorney Odilon L. Pasaraba, CESO 3, Assistant Secretary for Special Concerns, Local Government Sector, DILG, Attorney Joey Lina, former Secretary of DILG, Governor of Laguna, the youngest senator in 1987, and the favorite of first-time voters like me during that time. My colleagues, students, I saw several of you, alumni, our retired CPAf personnel and guests. It's really good to see you all virtually online. It is my honor to welcome you to the second part of the 24th CPAf anniversary celebration. With the theme Forging Leaders for Institutional Governance and Development, CPAf tackles directly those issues that affect governance, and development. Today's topic is about the Mandanas Garcia ruling. Good governance can be referred to as sensible and attractive characteristics of government. It has been used as a conditional requirement by donor organizations for giving aid. Devolution is considered a good governance practice as it promises the possibilities of people participation, cooperation, efficiency, inclusivity, transparency, and accountability. With the transfer of responsibilities for the delivery of certain basic services to the local government units, the LGC of 1991 promised the possibilities of improved and good governance and consequently facilitate rural development. However, the differences in the level of financial independence have been considered a hindrance in achieving the positive effects of LGC 1991. Thus, with the Mandanas Garcia ruling, the question is that will the LGUs be able to deliver better services with the increase in their finances? Will the Growth and Equity Fund, for example, help lower income municipalities perform better compared to the well-endowed LGUs like Laguna? What measures should be undertaken to reap the full potentials of the Mandanas Garcia ruling? I am very happy to see all of you virtually, and I wish everyone a productive morning as we learn from not one, but two experts. I invite all of you, including those from DILG, our guest speakers, to witness the launching of new books from CPAf and the launching of our latest innovation, the Deep Lab, where we are excited to partner with various organizations, foremost of which is DILG. We hope to see you on February 11 for our last learning events in relation to CPAF's 24th anniversary celebration. Thank you for celebrating and learning with us. Gwen?
Thank you very much, Dean Bocongis, for the welcome message. So Dean Bocongis has already raised a lot of issues and topics that we should be looking forward to as we listen to our guest speakers for this morning. Moving forward with our program, to which I believe everybody has been waiting for, I will first introduce our guest speaker for this morning. Our first guest speaker this morning is Asek Odi Pasaraba. So Asek Odilon Luis Pasaraba was born and raised in the province of Cagayan and is known for his technical expertise in local governance and administration. By profession, he is an agricultural engineer and a lawyer. He is also a holder of 2 master's degrees, one in public administration and one in public management. And he is also a Lee Kuan Yew Fellow of the National University of Singapore and of the prestigious Harvard University. He accomplished all his post-bachelor educational achievements while rising from the ranks in the Department of the Interior and Local Government. In a span of 10 years, he has served as a local government operations officer, legal officer, provincial director, and assistant regional director in DILG Region 2. He has also held the record of being one of the youngest career executive officers in DILG. In 2017, he served as a director of the Bureau of Local Government Supervision of the DILG Central Office and led the Bureau in the fulfillment of the department's mandate of supervising local government units and dispersing responsibilities that support the various national development trusts. Exactly 3 years after, he assumed as Assistant Secretary of the DILG in November 2020. In his tenure at the DILG, he has highly contributed to policy development and evaluation, capacity building, and overall supervision of LGUs, all while proving that hard work, dedication, and passion for public service are the vital elements in the pursuit of genuine development among communities. So let's all welcome Asek Odilon Pasaraba.
Hello, good morning. Yeah, thank you so much, Genevieve. Okay, so umpisahan na ba natin, Genevieve?
Yes po, sir, you may start po with the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah. To my fellow member of the panel, of course, we have here Honorable Joey Lina, the former Senator and Secretary of the DILG. Good morning, sir. To our discussants, reactors, members of the faculty, students and organizers, of course, Dean Rowena Baconis, and of course, the faculty of UPLB, particularly College of Public Affairs and Development. Good morning, everyone. It is an honor to be one of your speakers for your 24th anniversary of the College of Public Affairs and Development, UP Los Baños. In your 24 years of existence, you have likewise produced 24 batches of stellar graduates, leaders, thinkers, and even development enablers of our nation's history. Congratulations. Please continue producing nation builders, all the while partaking in nation building yourselves, even in the next 24 years and beyond. I find it inspiring that you utilize this celebration as an opportunity to deepen understanding and even discourse surrounding public service, governance, and local development. This is yet another testament of your commitment as one of the young bastions of public administration and democratic governance. Next, please. Speaking of good governance, perhaps the recent topic that continues to pique the interest of many is the promulgation of the Supreme Court ruling in the Mandanas Garcia case, year 2018. The petitioners pleaded for the court to mandate the national government to compute the internal revenue allotment of local government units based on their just shares from all national taxes. The court agreed with them, and the decision resulted to the increased fiscal resources of our local government units. My view in this context, however, is that this did not just signify a change in budgetary allocation. This was not just a matter of money or revenue allocation. As we know, budgets are reflections of our government's fiscal priorities. And this remains true even in view of the Mandanas ruling. What we can expect then is a paradigm shift made manifest in our new institutional arrangements. Our local government units turn from implementers to service providers, direct service providers, from links to national programs to active deliverers of programs, from stewards of progress to captains of local development. And eventually, Filipinos will be in position where they can and will demand more from their local officials and local institutions. Next, please. The national government recognized that this needle will not move on its own. And as response to Mandanas Garcia petition, President Rodrigo Duterte issued Executive Order number 138 last year, setting the table for full devolution of services from the national to the local governments. Much has been said about the idea of devolution. Yet, This is not as easy as it seems to be. For obvious reasons, we at the Department of the Interior and Local Government are the first-hand witnesses of this. What happens to the host of national policies and programs that we at the national government enforce and monitor on our local government units? These have considerable implications on a multitude of governance areas, including peace and order, environmental management, food security and nutrition, transportation policy, COVID-19 protocols, and so many other concerns, so to speak. Most of all, this necessitates a more proactive role on the part of national government agencies in engaging local government units and determining how to streamline public service delivery, especially while both levels undergo a period of transition. Executive Order number 138 further provides for the two main components of our preparation for devolution. First is the preparation of the devolution transition plan at all levels of government, from our national government agencies down to our local barangays. And second is the provision of capacity development programs to local government units to ensure their readiness for full devolution. Next, please. In this transition, national government agencies are tasked to set the directions which will guide our LGUs in the path to devolution, because they naturally have the technical capacity as to these governance areas. National government agencies are tasked to set service delivery standards, provide oversight and supervision to local government units, and actively strengthen local institutions geared towards their eventual absorption of previously national governance or government functions. On one hand, the local government units are also imbued with a great responsibility on this process. Under the Local Government Code of 1991, specifically Section 17 serves as a strong legal foundation for the provision of basic services and facilities by our local governments. At the same time, it also gives LGUs ready reference on which they can anchor their respective devolution transition plans. And consequently, LGUs shall be primarily responsible and accountable for the provision of these services. Next, please. To complement the institutional interchange that we expect to occur in view of the Mandanas and EO 138, the DILG shall provide capacity development interventions for local government units. This is a daunting challenge on the part of the DILG. And of course, our provinces, cities, and municipalities have various levels of capacities and readiness for devolution. And even those who need assistance may have various reasons for being unprepared: economic underdevelopment, geographical isolation, lack of human resource, and the more. There is no one-size-fits-all solution or program that will allow our LGUs to suddenly be ready to absorb the national services and programs. What we can do and continue to do in the DILG, however, under the leadership of Secretary Eduardo M. Año, is to continually engage with our local government units and partners in the national government, provide platforms of convergence to our local government academy, and ease our LGUs through the transition process. We also integrate these capacity development interventions with our existing incentivization mechanisms, particularly the seal of good local governance. And the reason for this is that aside from being an incentivization program, the SGLG is also a performance measuring tool. Through the data that we collect in our SGLG assessments, we are able to identify the strengths and needs of our local governments, which we can utilize to create smaller capacity interventions with the aid of our partners in the government and even in the private sector and the civil society organizations. Next, please. So what is the current status of our transition for this devolution? Admittedly, this is going to be a long process and we are just getting started. National government agencies are still figuring out how to streamline their respective services against the backdrop of the evolution. This also includes administrative considerations, including the rationalization of government personnel. And 16 out of the 20 required agencies were able to provide their respective agency devolution transition plans with differing levels of satisfaction and compliance. And we expect all our national government agencies to be fully compliant and ready in the coming months, which will then, of course, jumpstart the transition process to its full speed. Next, please. Meanwhile, for our local government units, they have been working full-time to comply with the transition plan requirement and begin with the nitty-gritty of the evolution. As of January 2022, 90% of our barangays, 91% of our component cities and municipalities, and 79% of provinces and highly urbanized cities have already submitted their approved devolution plans as monitored by the DILG through the Bureau of Local Government Development. Next, please. For many, the Mandanas ruling ushered in a more hopeful time. Local leaders are an inspiration and always in a good position to immediately respond to the needs and challenges of our local constituents. Collectively, our economy is still recovering from the besetments caused by the COVID-19. Yet, just by looking at the role of our LGUs in our battle against the pandemic, including on vaccination, enforcement of community quarantine protocols, and even in the distribution of monetary aid to our communities in need, there is no doubt that LGUs are the forefront of our collective charge towards a recovered, progressive Philippines. And we at the DILG are very certain, kaya ito ng ating mga lokal na pamahalaan. Nonetheless, full devolution also spells numerous complications which only be resolved through continuous engagement and cooperation among the different levels of government. And at the national government level, we shall be prepared to lead, to set the standards, and to move from enforcers to guiders. Our LGUs, meanwhile, are called to ready themselves for the elevated responsibility that this process commands. Ultimately, the realization of the fruits and the blessings of the Mandanas and Garcia ruling, and even the Executive Order 138, are a shared responsibility. We at the DILG, under the effective and active Secretary Eduardo M. Año, are always ready to play our part in this transition. May we all work together to ensure continuous delivery of efficient and responsive government service. I invite everyone to check out our official Facebook page for updates on full devolution. Again, thank you and happy anniversary to the College of Public Administration. Good morning, everyone, and maraming salamat at mabuhay.
Thank you very much, Asek Pasaraba, for a very informative presentation. So you mentioned that the full devolution is going to be a long process. So if you already have questions for Asek Pasaraba, please type them in the Q&A or in the comment section of Facebook. Questions will be entertained during the open forum. Now, I will introduce to you our second speaker. Our second speaker is Attorney Joey D. Lina. Attorney Joey Lina served in government for 22 years as a two-term Philippine senator and two-term governor of Laguna, secretary of the Department of Interior and Local Government, chairman of the Dangerous Drugs Board, National Police Commission, Local Government Agency, and Public Safety College, Governor of Metro Manila, and General Manager of the Metro Manila Commission, now MMDA. Youngest Senator at 35 years old under the 1987 Constitution, Attorney Joey Lina authored landmark legislations and was chairman of several major Senate committees. As DILG Secretary, Joey championed the autonomy of local governments. As governor, Laguna became #1 province in the country for economic development. Attorney Joey Lina was president of League of Provinces and founding president of the Union of Local Authorities of the Philippines, an umbrella organization of all leagues of local government presently in the country. Attorney Joey Lina teaches constitutional and public corporation law. He's currently on leave. President of the Manila Hotel and the Manila Prince Hotel. Attorney Joey Lina is also a former TV and radio broadcaster at ABS-CBN DCMM, and he writes a column at the Manila Bulletin. Everyone, let's all welcome Attorney Joey D. Lina Jr. Sir?
Maraming salamat sa iyo, Jennifer, Madlang Bayan. Mabuhay po ang College of Public Affairs and Development, University of the Philippines. May the Spirit of God be with us this morning. At magandang umaga sa lahat ng mga participants dito sa ginagawa natin celebration ng 24th anniversary ng College of Public Affairs and Development, University of the Philippines, Los Baños. Ako naman po hindi estranghero sa University of the Philippines sa Los Baños. Madalas po ako na pumapasyal dyan at na meron pa ngang scholarship program na sinimulan ko dyan, yung Study Now, Pay Later program dyan sa University of the Philippines sa Los Baños. Nagsimula pa ito, I think, noong mga 1992. So matagal na rin po yun. So once in a while, I touch base with the committee that is in charge of this scholarship program. Napakaganda po ng inyong topic or theme for this anniversary, Forging Leaders for Institutional Governance and Development. My prayer is that the College of Public Affairs and Development of UP Los Baños will continue to be a vanguard, even a maverick in the field of institutional governance and development, especially in forging leaders for the subject matter. Let me begin the discussion by stressing the fact that local autonomy is the key to our peace growth. We know the concept of local autonomy. I'm sure all the previous speakers have delved on this. So I will not belabor the point that for our country to grow and develop faster, we really need to empower the people in the local government sector rather than waiting for directives, guidelines, even instructions coming from the national government. The best way to develop a place is to empower the very people who confront the problems day by day and for them to come up with solutions right where they are, with support and assistance, of course, from the higher level of government. Sa atin pong sulat na pinadala sa atin ni Dean Rowena Bacongis, binabati ko pala si Dean, at sa pakikipag-ugnayan natin kay David John Rodriguez, tatlo ang gusto nilang pagtuunan ko ng pansin dito sa ating 30-minute presentation. And number one is the role of various stakeholders in the devolution. Ang mga stakeholders po natin ay walang iba kung hindi Ang mga sumusunod, unang-una, ang mga mamamayan mismo, the people or the inhabitants of the province, city, municipality, and barangay. Sila po ang pangunahing stakeholder sapagkat sila ang maapektuhan ng devolution o yung pagbibigay ng power and authority by the national government to local governments as in conformance with the constitutional provision on local autonomy and in accordance with Article 10 of the 1987 Constitution. The people themselves are the most important stakeholder because they will be the main beneficiaries of the devolution of services and delivery of services to the people. The second important stakeholder is the local government itself, the provincial government, the city, province, the province, city, municipality, and barangay. And of course, their leaders, from the governor to vice governor to the mayors and city vice mayors, the board members in the province, the city councilors, the municipal mayors, vice mayor, councilors, and the barangay officials. And the third stakeholder will be the national government itself through the national government agencies, the DBM, of course, the DILG, the Department of Social Welfare and Development, the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Public Works and Highways, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, the Department of Tourism, the COA, and the Civil Service Commission. They are the national government agencies that have direct impact or connection with the devolution of services. Of course, the latest event that happened was the Mandanas Ruling, as maybe already been explained, and EO 138 that pushes for full devolution. That's the term used, full devolution of basic services in line with Mandanas ruling. So these are the three stakeholders that I think must play the key role in the devolution of services from the national government to the local governments. Let me emphasize the role of the people as the main stakeholder. We need to make sure that they are truly empowered because they are the ones who can really, in the long run, make devolution work. They are the ones who elect the local officials. And we all know that if the local officials are truly servant leaders, they are competent and God-fearing, then they will be able to fulfill their role as effective leaders in local governance. So the people will have to make sure that we have to make sure that the people really are good citizens of the country. This is a continuing effort that they understand the government itself, the workings of the government, and their role in it, that they are the ones where power comes from. Sovereignty resides in the people and all government authority emanates from them. So even in the area of devolution, the people must also be well informed what this devolution is all about, that they are the main beneficiaries or can be the victims of missteps or wrong application of the devolution process. Number two, the role of the local government. And also, in relation to the local government, abay atin pong pag-isipan din yung kanilang mga liga, the League of Provinces, Cities, Municipalities, and Barangay. And of course, the Union of Local Authorities of the Philippines, ULAP, which I headed by both the League of Provinces and the ULAP, which I helped found, and I became its founding president. These local officials and their leagues must see to it that the Mandanas Ruling and the EO 138 are correctly implemented. And I hope the previous speakers have already delved on this, because the way the Mandanas Garcia ruling is being implemented through EO 138, it leaves a lot of questions unanswered. And devolution will work if there is sufficient funding also, not just the sole factor to consider, but according to certain statements of those who have studied the budget for 2021, which I will not delve on lengthily, is that the cost of devolution under EO 138, the way it is being implemented, that is that the increase in the share of local governments in the national taxes following the Mandanas Garcia ruling is will be much less than the cost of devolution that is now being implemented. So medyo nalugi pa ang local governments according to these studies. And the League of Provinces and the local governments must continue to challenge this situation when they thought earlier that they would have a windfall out of this Mandanas Garcia ruling. According to certain studies, the local governments will even be shortchanged. No? Parang ibinabasa ko nila yung napakaraming trabaho. And I also question that, by the way, but this is not the time to do it, because the basic services that local governments must deliver, as defined and spelled out in Section 17 of the Local Government Code, are definite and specific. For the barangay, municipalities, cities, and provinces, Local Government Code is clear on what are these devolved services. And therefore, if the services that will be delivered under the full devolution following EO 138 and its implementation, that is highly questionable. If the basic services that now will have to be delivered by local governments surpass or go beyond the basic services that are spelled out under Section 17 of the Local Government Code. That's one area that the local governments and the leagues must continue to question. And definitely, having been in government for some time, for 22 years, and as a local official, challenging or questioning matters like this will take a long time to resolve. But I would say that the local governments and their respective leagues will have to brace themselves and continue to question. Although the Mandanas Garcia ruling is is a landmark decision of the Supreme Court, but it does not mean that local governments and their leagues must now rest and be complacent, because there are very many questionable services that are now being placed upon the shoulders of local governments, when the local government code itself specifies what are those devolved services. Let me also say that the local governments and their leaders must truly understand the concept of autonomy, and make sure that they participate in the formulation of policies that are being formulated by Congress or by the executive department, so that by engaging the national governments on matters affecting them, they continue to be proactive in making sure that policies do not violate local autonomy. And the local governments must make sure that the people are engaged. The most important stakeholders are engaged. They have to reach out. The local officials must reach out to the people, explain to them what is this devolution that is happening, and make sure that the people through NGOs will participate in the various local boards, the National Health Board, the Local Development Council, and the other, the school board, the NGOs, which form part of the people, must also be engaged. They should know what is devolution that is happening, so that they are able to be active in the formulation of policies, even on the local level, because there is a committee on devolution in the local level, transition committee on transition for devolution, and also with the national government agencies. Okay, so the national government agencies, which are very centric in their thinking, meaning they continue to hold on to the power that used to be theirs. They should now embrace the concept fully of autonomy, and should not treat the local governments as subordinates, but as partners in nation building or in national development. Unfortunately, there are still many issuances that wreak the old concept of centralized government. Of course, embracing the concept of local autonomy is a continuing work. It is a work in progress, but it's better that all these stakeholders, the people, the local governments and their leagues, and the national government agencies, they should truly embrace and internalize the concept of local autonomy based on Section 24 of Article 2 of the Constitution and Article 10 also of the Constitution. Having discussed all the roles of the stakeholders in the devolution, let me now go to the second item that Dean Rowena asked me to discuss, and this is the challenges on capacity building for the upcoming devolution transition. Paano nga ba natin mapapalakas ang kakayahan ng mga gobyernong lokal at ng national government din? Hindi naman ang gobyernong lokal lang, ang mga provincial government, city, municipality, and barangay governments na dapat magpalakas at maging makayanan nila itong devolution na mangyayari. And it's a transition. It cannot be full blast immediately. But the end is 2024. Full devolution must be complete by 2024. Ano yung mga hamon on capacity building? There are challenges on capacity building. And the number one challenge still is for you can only capacitate yourself, both local and national, if there is full understanding, embracing and internalizing the concept of autonomy and devolution. And as I said earlier, the stakeholders must be continuously engaged, that they can participate in decision making, both in the national and in the local level. Number two, and now let's go to the technical. Dapat ipaliwanag ng tuloy-tuloy yung Mandanas Ruling through seminars by the local government academy, by the local governments themselves. They should go all out and even explain to their own workforce in all levels of local government what this devolution, full devolution is all about. The LGA, of course, has initiated and will continue to initiate, the local government academy will continue to initiate and has already done, I think, a lot of webinars on this, on the devolution, but the work must continue. Concretely, sa health services, ano ba talaga yung dapat ma-devolve? I must admit that I have not gone through the various line items in the 2021 budget. I hope that was discussed earlier or during this online celebration. We have to go line by line. As I said earlier, there are basic services. The basic services are well defined. That those that are devolved to the local governments in Section 17 of the local government code. This matter must also be discussed during the training that is being handled already by the local government academy, and also local governments can initiate on their own this matter of devolution. And then the number 3 challenge is the quality of leadership in local government. There is a saying, although I don't want to compare leaders like horses, but there is a saying that you can bring the horse to the stream, but you cannot force the horse to drink from it. Kahit na anong sabihin natin na maganda ang local autonomy, maganda yung devolution, ang mga desisyon dapat talaga ginagawa sa baba sapagkat sila nakakaalam, tutulong na lang ang nasyonal, susuporta, magkaroon lang ng harmonization all over the country kung paano ito isasagawa ang devolution. Pero kung ang magpapatupad talaga ng devolution ng mga local governments ay hindi naman talaga isinasapuso yung prinsipyo ng local autonomy at ang agenda naman nila ay iba. Hindi naman talaga ang kaunlaran ng kanilang nasasakupan sang-ayon sa Section 16 of the Local Government Code or the General Welfare Clause. Ay kung talagang hindi naman nila isinasapuso yan at iba ang kanilang agenda, kundi pansarili para i-advance nila yung kanilang self-interest, ay wala ring mangyayari na makahulugan dito sa pinag-uusapan nating autonomiya at saka devolution. So, patuloy na ang mamamayan ay matuto sa paghahalal ng kanilang mga gobernador, mayor, barangay chairman, at lahat ng mga opisyales sa lokal. And if we have a critical number of or critical mass of leaders in the local governments, then we can turn around this country, because local governments will be the key. Through their local autonomy will be the key to our country's growth and development. As we all know, leadership makes the difference. And let me share with you, with all modesty, when I was the governor in our province of Laguna for 2 terms, and being a member of the Philippine Senate that helped enact the local government code, and I was the chairman of Book 3 of the local government code of 1991. And being a former student leader and youth leader na sigaw ng ibagsak ang feudalismo, pasismo, kapitalismo, pati na yung misismo. Of course, that was a joke during our time. No? Laguna became number 1 because we made sure that at our level, at the provincial government, we were able to implement a 21-point development program, and we pursued them. We pursued those programs and implemented them. And programs, projects, and activities reigned in Laguna for 2 terms, and we were not dependent on the IRA. I started as the province was dependent on IRA, now national taxes, but after 1 year, because we were able to collect the taxes, we improved tax collection. After 1 year, Laguna was the first province that was not dependent on the IRA. The local taxes were higher than the share of the province from the national taxes. And because number 1 in our program, 21-point development program, number 1 was moral recovery program, meaning pagbabalik loob sa Diyos, believing that if God is our leader and we follow God, then all the rest will be added unto us, and meaning all the 20 other programs will be accomplished. And we did. We became number 1 in industrialization, number 1 in process exports, number 1 in job generation, because from 7 industrial estates, we were able to increase the industrial estates to 21. And in agriculture, well, also UP is a big factor. We always coordinate with the University of the Philippines College of Agriculture. Our agricultural productivity was highest in Region 4 in all contests initiated by the Department of Agriculture on agricultural productivity. Laguna always emerged number 1 in those years. And so, raising quality of leadership in any local government will be the most important continuing task, and the people themselves have to be engaged. Otherwise, the spring cannot rise above its source. If the spring, the source of power is the people, and people do not use their power to choose the best and the brightest to lead the local governments, then all our hopes and dreams for a better Philippines will not come to pass. Number 4 challenge, of course, is lack of resources. Lack of resources. Lack of resources is a relative problem, because local governments are also empowered to raise taxes, to levy taxes, fees, and other charges. You tell me if I'm already going beyond the time limit. It's relative. Even if pronouncement has been made or studies have been made by Senator Chis Escudero, now incumbent governor of Sorsogon. He was the chairman of the local government committee in the Senate when he was there. That in the 2021 budget, the local governments are shortchanged. Tataas nga ang kanilang share sa national taxes because of the Supreme Court decision. However, yung cost of devolution, full devolution, will eat up that increase, and in fact will make it more difficult for local governments to perform their functions and deliver the basic services that they are already delivering. But as I said, lack of funds is a relative problem. The local governments until now have failed to use their power to levy taxes, fees, and charges. You know, going back to Laguna, we raised the real property tax by 0.25%, and that made a big difference. We undertook tax mapping. We identified the lands and machineries that have to be taxed. We made sure that the taxes, the taxation is uniform. We color-coded the properties, and our treasurers went to the factories, checked whether the machineries were included in their real property tax payment. And the Laguna became number one in revenue in the whole country at that time, and in the whole country, number one in income was at that time was Quezon City, followed by Makati, followed by Manila, and the next one is not a city; it is a province, and it is the province of Laguna. So I will not stop at that or point fix a figure. Na lack of funds is a continuing, yes, it's a continuing challenge, but local governments have been described as very weak in tax collection. Even the professional tax in Laguna, we campaign among all the professionals in Laguna to pay their taxes in Laguna, professional tax. By the way, para maengganyo yung mga tao na magbayad ng buwis, we explain to them the programs, projects, and activities in Laguna, the scholarship program, the school building program, the health program, making sure there's medicine in the hospitals are clean, we have adequate equipment, etc., etc., and that the money that they will pay, the government will be spent wisely. We conducted the campaign all over the province, and may paraffol pa, nagparaffol pa. Yung nagbabayad ng buwis ay binibigyan ng coupon, at iraraffle lahat yung coupons, at mayroong premyo like isang vehicle at marami pang ibang pa-premyo. So lack of funds is not really a permanent problem. Local governments, well, they could continue to question the way the Mandanas Ruling is being implemented, but they should not stop there. They should not stop questioning the devolution that is not permitted or is not mentioned in the local government code. Now, lastly, preparation for LGUs in absorbing full devolution. Well, if the guideline has been issued out, explain this guideline. What are those services that will be devolved in addition to the ones mentioned in Section 17 of the Local Government Code? Inuulit ko, pinag-aralan ko mabuti yan, and I'm a professor of local government for some time. Definite naman yung mga services and facilities that have to be delivered by the local governments. Kung sumosobra yung idinidevolve sa kanila, they are already national programs that national government must be the one to shoulder. Let me repeat that. If they are national programs, projects, and activities initiated by the government through Congress, at ngayon ay papopondohan nila sa local governments, that's highly questionable. But having said that, it will take time again, as I said, to question and get a favorable ruling from the Supreme Court. ay mahirap namang mabuting malaman kung ano nga ba yun. And as I said, I did not go line to line item yung sa General Appropriations Act 2021. I didn't have material time to study what Senator Chis Escudero said, but it's kinakailangan na talagang mapag-aralan yan. At sabihin na sa mga local governments in preparation for LGUs in absorbing full devolution. Okay, number 2, the leagues, ULAP, should go full blast explaining to their various local government members kung ano itong devolution na ito. Rapid fire, full blast, informing, little knowledge is a dangerous thing. So kailangan talagang full blast information. At kasama yan sa function ng committee on devolution, both national and local. And then review local tax efforts and how to increase them. Nabanggit ko na, land, machineries, tax mapping, digital tax mapping, and all that, para mag-raise pa rin ng revenues ang local governments at huwag umasa dyan sa national taxes. Merong socialized housing tax, that's under the LINA law, Republic Act 7279, hindi ginagamit ng local governments except Quezon City kasi pagkat natatakot ang ibang local officials pagka nag-collecta ka ng additional tax which is already allowed by law, baka daw hindi sila iboto. But in my case, when I was governor, we raised the real property tax. And the people did not object. They embraced it. And because they saw that we were doing our best to deliver ample, abundant basic services to our people. And number 4, in preparation, prioritize. What are those basic services that are of immediate impact in increasing or changing, improving the quality of life of the people in the area, in the jurisdiction of the local government concerned, whether it's province, city, municipality, and barangay. All right, in conclusion, after discussing those 3 items that Dean Rowena Bacongis assigned to me to discuss this morning, in conclusion, leadership makes a difference. And the people must really choose the best and the brightest. Those who are fearful of offending God, those who are competent, they know what is local government, they know autonomy, they know the basic services that need to be delivered to the people. They know how to prioritize the needs, what are the most important needs that have to be served by the local government. And if all of this happens from Batanes to Tawi-Tawi, the local governments being parts of the entire republic, there is a saying, the whole is only as strong as its parts. Yes, the national government has its own role, definitely, but it should not consider the local governments as subordinates. Even the principle of local autonomy means that there should be a strong partnership between the national government and the local governments. That is reiterated in the local government code in the declaration of policy itself. Maraming salamat sa inyong pakikinig at kung meron kayong mga katanungan ay handa naman akong sumagot sa mga hindi nyo maaring hindi naunawaan at kinakailangan bigyan pa ng linaw. Maraming salamat po at God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Attorney Joey Lina, for a very comprehensive presentation. At importante po talaga na malaman natin kung ano po talaga ang devolution, hindi lang po sa ating local leaders, kundi tayo pong mga tao na bumoboto din ng ating local leaders. So for this event, we also invited 2 discussants to share their insights about the presentations of our guest speakers. Let me introduce our first discussant this morning, Dr. Vela Atienza. Dr. Vela Atienza is currently an associate professor at the Institute for Governance and Rural Development of the College of Public Affairs and Development at the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. She graduated from the same university as a Master of Management major in Development Management in 2002. She obtained her PhD in Asia Pacific Studies at the Ritsumeikan Asia Pacific University in Japan in March 2009. She is a recipient of the 1 UP Faculty Grant Award in Development Management for Governance and for outstanding teaching and public service for the years 2019 to 2021. She is also an International Publication Awardee for the year 2022 from the University of the Philippines. She has published more than 50 papers and articles as sole author and volume editor, as well as presented in more than 33 local and international conferences. Further, she was the country chapter author for the Philippines and a drafting committee member of the State of the Three R's in Asia and the Pacific. She has extensive experience in research, having been at it for more than 20 years. Her research involvements focus on development management and governance and environmental governance in waste management in the Philippines and other Asian countries, among many others. Some of her recent research involvements include the Japan External Trade Organization project entitled Toward the Regional Cooperation of Local Governments in the ASEAN 2018-2019 and Regional Waste Management Intermunicipal Cooperation and PPP 2019-2020. Currently, she is also the project leader of the Local Government Academy and UPLB's collaborative project entitled Baseline Study on Governance Systems among ASEAN plus 3 countries. Dr. Atienza?
Good morning. Thank you very much, Gwen, for that introduction. Good morning, Asek Odi Pasaraba and Attorney Joey Lina. Thank you very much, sir, for being our speakers in today's webinar. And magandang umaga din po sa ating lahat. Now, let me share with you my reaction or insights to the presentations of our 2 distinguished speakers. At first, Asek Odi discussed what is this Mandanas Ruling. So he provided us with a clear background of this Mandanas Garcia ruling. In addition, he also discussed the EO 138, which enables the smooth transition of the evolved functions from national government agencies to LGUs, the different roles and responsibilities of LGAs and LGUs, the capacity building that being done by the DILG through LGA to LGUs, and the preparations. He also provided us the updates on the submission of the devolution transition plans or the DTPs. On the other hand, Attorney Joey Lina discussed the different roles of the stakeholders in the devolution, particularly the national government agencies, the LGUs, and of course the people. The challenges, particularly on the capacity building for the devolution transition and the preparations for LGUs in absorbing this devolution. So based on these presentations, let me share with you some key points or concerns that can be included in the discussion later, or I call it the 5 C's of the Mandanas Ruling. First, this full devolution and with a greater share or the just share in terms of fiscal resources will capacitate and empower. So firstly is the capacity. It will capacitate our LGUs to deliver better services to its people, or it will enable them to respond more effectively to the needs of the community. This will lessen also the dependency of the LGUs to the national governments. I think all of us have realized, especially during this pandemic, the relevant roles of the local governments, the local government units being the forefront in responding to the needs of its constituents. The second one is this Mandanas Ruling is really a change. Actually, it's a significant change. And we know that all change, whether positive, negative, it has stress. It creates stresses. So therefore, it requires a proper preparation in moving into full devolution. The preparation in moving into a full devolution is very important. So therefore, it's very nice that we heard from ASEC OD that the capacity trainings that being done by LGAs. And Attorney Joey Lina also emphasized that in this preparation, it is very important to have that participation, that the needs of the people are being heard. People are, even during the preparation, people are part of the planning, but there are some issues there. There are also some concerns expressed by some LGUs. Although they have submitted already their DTPs or the devolution transition plans, but the timing, there are some incongruent deadlines. Like, for example, they were just advised to give it, to submit it around November, and they have to submit it by December. So the short period of the preparation, although we have this 2022 to 2024. So we just, there is a need to really have a clear mechanisms on how to ensure the smooth transition from towards full devolution. The next C is the implementation challenges. Attorney Joey Lina already mentioned that there are many challenges already, especially on the capacity of the LGUs in entering into this full devolution. ASEC OD also mentioned that they have submitted already. They have prepared the NGAs, both the NGAs, the LGUs have prepared their DTPs, but there are also others who have not submitted, or others they have returned for further review. But the concern is how to ensure that these DTPs will be properly implemented. One of the issues that being raised by LGUs is, for example, there is with this full devolution, they have to create a plantilla positions should be included in their DTPs. Therefore, the cap for the personnel services, especially for municipalities, may be a challenge. In addition, the LGUs for this 2022, we know that they would receive higher NTAs, but it is also expected that there will be a significant decrease in NTAs for 2023 to 2024 due to lower tax collection, because that would be coming from collection for 2020 and 2021, which we know that there might be lower collection due to pandemic. So that is another challenge that for the LGUs. Another concern is the different tax base of cities, municipalities, and provinces. I think Attorney Joey Lina mentioned also the congruence, the functions, the devolved functions, with the devolved functions given to LGUs, it seems that the additional funds are not enough. From the word of na na-mention kanina, parang nalugi pa. So yung ganong concern. So although there is in EO 138, there is that growth equity fund to support the fourth and fifth class municipalities, I guess. But I heard that this is also being contested by the LCTs are contesting it, since there are also cities, especially into far provinces, who might be needing this kind of support. So especially in this time of pandemic, the current situation wherein the priorities of LGUs is more on COVID-19 responses, such as tracing, vaccination, and others. So with all these devolved functions, and although they have increased, or that they call the just share in the fiscal resources, but again, it might not be enough. So I will go those are the implementation challenges. But on the brighter side, this Mandanas ruling will truly encourage our LGUs to be more. It will encourage creativity. Okay, creativity and innovativeness to craft a more localized programs, as mentioned by Attorney Joey. Hindi siya dapat maging yung problema yung funding, pero it will encourage our local governments to explore other sources of income, and also this increased fiscal resources, it will make them, our LGUs, to be credit worthy, diba? Or it will attract investment from businesses. But again, there should be mechanisms to ensure that there will be transparency, the application of good governance, transparency, accountability in allocating and spending government resources, and that these resources will be used to provide better services to the people. So kanina na-mentioned yung kailangan ng participation, how to do this prioritization. So with this devolution, unlike before that most of the programs are coming from the national government, but sometimes these are not fit or appropriate to the real needs of the community. So with this Mandanas Ruling, it gives them the freedom, the authority to really craft programs that are fit to their own needs. So it will give them a more localized programs. And lastly, is the fifth C is collaboration to sustain this the implementation of this devolution. There is a need for a collaboration. Although this is there is a full devolution, still the collaboration between the LGUs, the national governments, and other sectors, including the academe, should be strengthened. Not only during this transition period, but it should be it should be sustained so that there should be a continuous partnership in providing better services to the people and moving towards achieving sustainable development and or what we call now in moving towards a better normal. I think that's all, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Atienza, for sharing your insights with us. And now I will introduce to you our last discussant, Dr. Amit. Dr. Mayo Grace C. Amit is an assistant professor of the Institute for Governance and Rural Development, College of Public Affairs and Development of the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. She teaches project development management, fiscal administration and development, local development planning, and development perspectives. She holds a master's degree in development planning from the University of Queensland in Australia and is currently completing her PhD degree in development studies. Prior to joining UPLB in 2009, she worked in the National Economic and Development Authority for 15 years. Now let us all welcome Dr. Mayo Grace C. Amit. Dr. Amit?
Hello, yes. Good morning. When I'm still not a doctor, I'm still about to complete my degree. So just a clarification on that. Anyway, good morning, and I thank the two main speakers, Asik Odi and Senator Lina. Thank you for those insights that you shared with us about the Mandanas Ruling. Now, there are 4 points of reflection that I would like to share with everyone following the sharings that were given earlier. First of all is that the Mandanas Garcia ruling has to do really with delivery services, particularly those that will go to the broadest constituency that we have. And even if there is such focus on the local, we have to understand also, and I think it has been impressed in several discussions too, that there are shared outcomes to development between the national and the local levels. And regardless of how the sharing of responsibility in delivering services will be, the focus on nation building, poverty alleviation, and all, to which all these contributions at the local will have to tend towards a shared outcome, as we should say. Although right now with the ruling, there is how would I say, nuancing of what kind of services in particular are most needed in specific areas. So this time, with this landmark decision of the Supreme Court, there is a broadening of opportunity for local leaders to have a say on how they will determine their priorities and where to spend their resources. So the outcomes and the outputs are there, but the way in which this will be determined will be different. And that is where the challenge of the adjustments will be. That's why there are devolution transition plans that are going on, because we want to secure that despite this individualized approaches of local government units, we would see in the end that there is a continuing consistency and harmony in both the national and the local government efforts. In the end, what we would want to happen is that the needs of localities are identified effectively, meaning we are doing the things right, those things right, and efficiently also, that we are making use of resources in the proper ways. So, yun po yung unang point of reflection ko. The center of all these efforts is how can delivery of services be made better for everyone without compromising anyone's objectives, local objectives, national objectives. The second point of reflection that I gathered from our experts here is the role of government. So we have been used to doing things in a certain way, both at the national government and the local government. But the shifting of how things will be done this time is a crucial matter to be looked for us to be looking at, because it will create, we will see the results of these changes 5-10 years forward. We wouldn't be seeing that in the short term. So there is now a reimagining of what roles are played by local governments and national government. And again, very specific examples have been mentioned earlier. But nabanggit nga din kanina na napakahalaga ni Senator Lina is that there is a question on what is the coverage of basic services that is being downloaded now. So even as we are moving towards the transition plans, as we are saying, there will be a continuing discussion on the scope of the shared responsibility and in what areas this will be. And in that sense, I go to a closely related third point on the role of government is the emphasis on the complementary role between the levels of government. While we are talking about the reimagined role of national government and thinking also of the reimagined role of local governments, we also must take to consideration very specifically where are the complementations really. And in that particular area, what comes to mind to me is what will be the role of the regional bodies. Because the regional bodies are not, to me, I think, very emphasized fully. I know that in the preparation perhaps of the devolution transition plans, the regional bodies are contained in the DPPs of the national government agencies. But I think there should be a more intentional look at how regional bodies will be playing a crucial role in looking at the nuancing at the regional level. So, of course, it was mentioned several times that government agencies will be mobilized, but how can regional bodies' role be more explicitly articulated in a way that they will play the balancing force to look at national and local complementations? What can they do together and what can be done in separate ways? So the regional bodies will have a lot to do with that. And then finally, the sharings have also been talking about the role of other groups. What was mentioned was, of course, the DILG, the regional offices, the ULAP, but there are a lot other of stakeholders that are present, and this could be different across localities. But to me, my question is, where are the spaces and who makes sure that all these stakeholders can play a role? Indeed, their role and their ideas can be safely and surely put in the process of planning, in the process of budgeting, in the audit. So these three processes in the area of this paradigm shift, as mentioned by ASEC Odi, where are the spaces? Of course, in the local government code, there are representations already in the existing bodies. But by allowing others to have a say more on these things, how do we make sure and who will look after that indeed the representation is right, the representations are comprehensive, and how can this be sustained in the future, knowing that, of course, the political environment will also delimit participation in certain ways. So as part of that third point about the participation of other stakeholders, which the first part of Senator Lina's presentation was that. What I would want to say is, in particular, we also have to see from our own institutional perspectives, like UPLB, for example, how can we make a contribution without waiting, for example, from local governments or the national government agencies? How can we make a contribution knowing that there is this wide scope of opportunities for us to be part of, from the monitoring of how this Mandanas Ruling will roll out in the future, in making sure that the spaces for participations are indeed going to happen, that it will really allow people to participate in the determination of plan priorities, budget priorities, audit. So how do we make sure of those? Who will be the custodians or the guardians of those processes? So as a final note siguro for the role of HEIs, the MNE area for the rollout of this Mandanas Ruling is very important to look at as a contribution. Capacity development, of course, is there, but I think we also have to nuance how capacity development will be. I agree with what was mentioned earlier, that it could be from information dissemination of what the Mandanas Ruling is all about. But I also doubly agree with what was mentioned earlier by Senator Lina about value formation, not just sharing the information, but impressing on the value of really being accountable, being part of the outcomes that all these things we are doing in service delivery. And of course, more important as well is the skills enhancement in different areas of the tasks that are being done both at the local government, but as well as in the national government as well. But again, I go back to the difficult task for regional bodies, because the balancing act has to happen somewhere. And for the academe, of course, there could be a research and extension agenda that could be developed to complement this very important new paradigm that has shifted in the way delivery services will be done in the country today. But then, as a final note, I would also want to say that sabi nga nila, walang pera, may problema. Eto, nagda-download ng pera ngayon. There's still a lot. It opens up a different host of problem as well. But maybe suffice to say that, yes, we can focus on the absence or the presence of resources, but it also boils down to, are we in a proper footing to plan for and make use of those resources? Kaya napakahalaga ng mga nabanggit kanina, may mga DTPs tayo at napaghandaan na yan ng maayos ng ating DILG. Pero napakahalaga din ng mga experiential inputs ni Senator Lina kanina on how to go about really the issues that are currently besetting the possible problems that can beset the implementation of the Mandanas Ruling. But suffice to say that at least we have resources to talk about. And we are flagging now where are the possible hiccups. Sabi nga kanina ni Senator Lina din, hindi, without the Mandanas Ruling even, hindi pa nga na-maximize yung paggamit ng kanilang power in the local government code, yung magamit nila fully yung proviso where they can make use of charge taxes in their localities. So ito po yung mga malawak at marami pang pwedeng tignan, but in the end, leadership is very key also. I think that the successes that were experienced during Senator Lina's time as governor of Laguna is an evidence that it can be done with leadership, but also we have to strengthen institutions, kagaya ng sinabi ko kanina, in strengthening institutions in their processes, and systems in the way of doing things so that even if mag-change yung leadership, lalo na yung mga politically elected leaders, the technical units of the local government units in the national government offices will have in place the checks and balances. Lalo na nga doon sa nabanggit ko kanina na tatlong mahahalagang proseso in the resource utilization processes, sa pagpaplano, sa pag-budget, at doon sa audit. So that ends my reflections for the sharings this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Amit. I would also like to thank our guest speakers and the discussants this morning. The Mandanas ruling will really bring a big change on how we implement things, and for sure our participants have a lot of questions that they want to raise regarding our topic. But before we proceed to the questions from our participants, maybe our guest speakers, Asek Odi and Attorney Joey Lina, would like to share their maybe quick response on the points raised by our discussants. So I believe Professor Amit posed the question on what would be the role of the regional bodies. Sirs?
Yeah, as far as the regional bodies are concerned, Professor Amit is correct. Section 14 of Article 10, the Regional Development Council, its creation is under the plenary power of the President, no? O talagang hindi pwedeng pakialaman ng Kongreso. At ang purpose ng Regional Development Council is to really speed up the development of the region, socio-economic development of the region, strengthen local autonomy. So it's composed of government in the national level and local level. All the national agencies are there, the regional agencies are there. So they can come up with a integrated, those basic services that can be integrated. For example, you don't have to have a one tertiary hospital or one big hospital, tertiary hospital, or you can have a regional, modern, so that there will be economy of scale and you can spread out the cost. That's just one example in the delivery of health services. There can be a one-stop shop for agricultural modernization, so that there can be best practices shown on in demonstration areas, etc. On Industry 4.0, there can be a confluence of initiatives so that Industry 4.0 can be can be taken up by all the provinces. Otherwise, we will be left behind again by our neighboring countries who are now into Industry 4.0. So there can be some common priority undertakings which will be best undertaken on a regional basis. Maybe there can be one regional airport. There's a possibility to have one airport in a region. So the RDC can play a big role in line with the Mandanas Garcia ruling, which, by the way, just to put it in context, the ULAP and the League of Provinces way back had been fighting for this, and thank God the Supreme Court already decided this matter. It's a landmark. It's a landmark decision. So that's my. I was not able to traverse the issue of the RDC, but it plays a role as a consensus builder as to what regional plans, programs, and projects, activities can be undertaken based on the principle of economy of scale and complementation, or making sure that every penny, rather every centavo, will be spent on regional programs and projects is done in a more efficient way.
Yes,
That's correct.
Thank you, Attorney Jovelina. Asik Odi, maybe would you like to add something? Sir, I'm sorry if you are speaking, we cannot hear you.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Thank you so much. Additionally, when we talk about regional bodies, hitik na hitik tayo dyan sa ating mga region, no? Meron tayong RDC, meron tayong Regional Peace and Order Councils, meron tayong Regional Disaster Risk Reduction Councils. Madami. And if there are really commonalities of these regional bodies are some of the some of the Cs, which were earlier mentioned by our panelists. Or discussants, I should say, yes. It is a convergence platform. And when we talk about convergence platform, voices of the local government units, the civil society organizations, people's organizations, the private sector, and of course, the national government agencies are really heard. And in hearing, andito na yung identification of programs, the crystallization of plans, the allocation of resources, resource mobilization. So, we need to make that functional in the light of the Mandanas and Garcia ruling. This should be a good, how would I put it, fulcrum or core for our development enabling mechanisms and processes, particularly synchronizing, development plans of the national government agencies and marry it with the local government units, and at the same time, clearing house for the allocation and allocation of and appropriation of our resources, both at the national and at the local. Maganda to dahil they define their own development agenda as collaborators, as partners, and coordinators. Okay? And since resources really matter in terms of defining development milestones, in the DILG, we really espouse and at the same time rally for the functionality of these regional bodies to clear and at the same time to crystallize plans and at the same time collaborate for the use of resources.
Jennifer, just to complete the discussion, I'll contribute to completing the discussion here. Well, that is in what I said earlier, and it has also been said that that's more in theory rather than in practice. No? Local governments can share their resources for regional programs, projects, and activities. But the national government should be the one to really give a bigger share, because we are only talking of the 40% that is being touched by the Mandanas Garcia ruling. The 60% that belongs to the national government. Okay? So, hindi naman, the national government cannot wash its hands off that, okay, basta local, kayo na lang bahala dyan. No. Well, meron nga silang support sa third and fourth, etc. But let me make it clear. How will the government, national government, spend the remaining 60% of the national taxes? Okay, this is my experience as being, I was part of the Regional Development Council of Region 4. And I've studied all of this. The woes and complaints of regional development councils is that they have been meeting, and that's what we did also during that time. We come up with a regional plan, but Congress does not provide the funds. So all those plans and programs and activities are just true on paper. That's why there is little enthusiasm among local officials to participate in the Regional Development Council, because Congress does not honor the plans and programs of the Regional Development Councils. They do not give the budget for that. And the DBM also does not assert, or the executive department lacks the necessary political will to really implement this constitutional provision, Section 14. If federalism is the goal of some people, this Regional Development Council is already federalism, Philippine style, but the only lacking is that these plans are not being funded. It's Congress that sets its own priorities. Anyway, I just wanted to clear that out. The Mandanas ruling, Garcia ruling, empower gives a lot of funds to local governments because the Bureau of Customs collection, and other taxes that were not included in the computation of the 40% now are included there. So lalaki talaga theoretically. But as I said, short change pa, nalugi pa, because yung devolution included other basic services that are not specified in Section 16 of Article of the Local Government Code. Before I joined the discussion, I reviewed line by line Section 17. Take a look at Section 17. And before I let go of this point, Professor Amit, I'd like to immediately respond. The structure of local government under the local government code is already very clear. You know, the role of NGOs, nandun na yun. In the local development council, the local health board, in the school board, no. Pwede naman mag-participate doon. When I was governor, I invited all the stakeholders to participate. In the Bids and Awards Committee, very important, I invited the Rotary Club, I invited all the NGOs, watch the bidding process because it's important that you know this. Baka magnakaw kami. Ganun pa ang biro ko. So I invited them, the Rotary, open bidding. The best bid is the one chosen. I introduced the system also when I was in DILG. I invited the JIL, I invited the Makati Business Club, the Catholic Laity of the Philippines. The structure is already there. It's, parang Bible. The local government has answer for every situation. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's already there. It's a question of making it work. NGOs should be accredited, etc., etc. It's all in the local government code. So there's really nothing extraordinary new about this thing. We just have to implement the code. And implementing the code depends on the leader. Whether governor, mayor, pero kahit anong ganda ng batas, kung hindi naman gustong ipatupad, wala rin mangyayari. So I go back to my premise. The leader makes the difference.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. So at this point, it's very clear to us that there is a big challenge ahead and that we should really try to make the convergence platform work in all aspects. And we should be very clear with our roles as stakeholders. I can see, so at this point, we will now open our floor for the open forum. For participants joining us via Zoom, you can send questions to our speakers by typing them in the Q&A window. And for those tuned in via Facebook Live, you may send in the questions via the comment section. Please state the name to which you wish to address your question. Questions are collated and are moderated to ensure the relevance to the scope of the presentation. So we will be entertaining at this point about 2 to 3 questions for the open forum. But prior to that, I already saw our Dean Bohongis raised her hand.
Yes, good morning, Gwen. It's just 2 to 3. No, this is for Governor Joey Lina, no? It's governor here in the name. I have listened to very excellent comments, very critical comments that you have raised about the local government code and the Mandanas ruling, and this is really well appreciated. I can see that the historical knowledge and your current knowledge is very relevant as of the moment. I just really wanted to know if you have any public service plans in the near future, because you did mention that we do need very good leaders to make possible changes for our country. Yes, Governor Joey Lina?
You put me on the spot, Dean. Yes, I shall return to public service after 17 years of absence. I had to take care of my family. You know, I started very early. I started at 33 years old. I was governor of Metro Manila and general manager of the Metro Manila Commission, now MMDA. And from then on, I served in various capacities as senator, governor, DILG secretary. Dumating sa punto ng buhay ko, I have to take care of my children. Nung bumagsak yung CAP, College Assurance Plan, yun lang ang akin na pag-ipunan. Kaya time out muna ako sa government. Now, my children are all done with their schooling. They're now professionals. So before I hit the sack, my sun sets on my life, I will devote the next 15 to 20 years, God willing, to public service. So I'm gunning for a congressional seat under the party list system. I authored 35 laws. One of them is the Philippine Midwifery Law. And so the midwives now a party list. They organize a party list. For the first time, they invited me to be its first nominee. So babalik ako at agrabyado uli yung aking tutulungan, yung mga kumadrona. But a congressman is, whether party list or district congressman, you can introduce bills that affect all sectors of society, the farmers, the fishermen, even the professionals. I can be of service to them, to all the sectors, because I've had extensive experience in legislative work. And that will be my re-entry into government service. Ang kumadrona, because I was the author of the law, the Philippine Midwifery Law, and so I accepted their invitation to be its first nominees. Sabi naman niya, hindi ka naman magpapaanak ng batas, hindi ka naman magpapaanak ng bata, magpapaanak ka ng batas. And that's what legislators are duty-bound to do, to enact laws. That's the job of a legislator, whether in Congress or in the Senate. So thank you for asking. I don't want to blurt it out because this is not the forum. But since you asked the question, I have to respond. And bahala na kayo. If you need me in Congress, then I will be your servant in Congress.
Okay.
It's very good.
Din, nawala ka, Din.
Ay, sorry po. Very good to hear po, former senator, no? I know that you authored a lot of bills and sabi nga po ng ating mga magagaling na mga philosophers, no? It's very important to give birth to ideas, and in that sense, you will be giving birth. I can foresee of giving birth to many relevant laws if given the chance. Comadrona. Thank you very much po. We have noted that.
Okay, thank you very much. We have tried to combine the two because both of them are actually asking what are being done to empower the LGUs to become well prepared and responsible in this devolution transition. So maybe ASEC Odi would like to answer.
Yes, hi, yeah, Guinevere, yes. To respond the question earlier on, okay, we presented on the part of the DILG the level of compliance on this devolution transition plans. But resoundingly, sabi nga ni Secretary Joelina, aanhin mo ang plano kung hindi naman ma-implement ng tama. So ito yung responsibilidad ng mga oversight agencies, katuwang ang ULAP, no? Liga ng mga lokal na pamahalaan, that we need to mean business. We have to mean business in relation to this, with all due respect to the jurisprudence, na may plano, dapat yung plano na yan dumaan sa proseso, may mga pagdinig, may mga pakikipag-usap, and so dapat ayusin natin ng tama. Implement natin ng tama. It may mga timeline na nilagay. Alam ko may mga contingencies din. So, yun siguro ang aming subaybayan. Okay, we need to follow that. We need to monitor that. And at the same time, guide our local government units in relation to readying themselves by embracing more responsibilities and geared towards a more accountable local government units.
Ayun po. Sir, actually, there is a follow-up, another question here for ASEC Audi. How specifically will the Mandanas ruling affect the operations of the barangays, most especially the rural ones? What will be the specific mechanisms of the Mandanas ruling para sa mga barangay?
Okay. Siyempre, very definite yung tataas ang kanilang mga internal revenue allotment. Okay? Kung tataas ang kanilang mga internal revenue allotment, which is the very impact of the development impact nitong ating Mandanas Garcia ruling, ang ibig sabihin niyan ay meron silang resource na gamitin para sa kanilang mga serbisyo. Sa ating mga rural barangays, binitbit ng ating mga munisipyo at ng ating mga component cities sa kanilang mga devolution transition plans ang mga plano at mga programa sa barangay na alam ng mga munisipyo, sa pagkakaalam ng mga munisipyo ay kailangan pang umambag ang mga component municipalities and cities sa mga rural development initiatives ng ating mga barangay. Similarly, sa national government agencies, hindi pa rin mawawala ang suporta ng mga national government agencies sa ating mga rural barangays in relation to improving their farm-to-market roads, improving their electrification, their water system, and the like. Because alam natin na ang ating mga rural barangays ay hindi sapat ang kanilang mga resources. Kaya mag-aambag ang munisipyo sa pagbibitbit ng kanilang mga barangay devolution transition plans, maging ang mga syudad, at maging ang mga national government agencies for that respect.
Okay po. So, this next question po naman is from a CPAf faculty member for both Attorney Joelina and ASEC Audi. So, sabi po dito, ngayon po, mas bibigat ang papel ng ating mga local officials sa ilalim ng Mandanas ruling. Ngunit ang pinakamainit na pinag-uusapan sa panahon ay ang merits at demerits ng mga national candidates. Sa tingin niyo po ba ay may sapat na panahon at pagkakataon ang mga universidad at ibang sektor ng civil society para gamitin ang local election campaign season upang ipaunawa sa mga botante ang importansya ng masusing pagpili ng mahusay na local government officials? Maaari ba nating sabihin na mas mainam ang paghandaan ang capacity development ng mga ihahalal na pinuno para sa devolution? So, yes, Attorney Joelina?
Well, definitely. The enlightened citizens of the country must go all out, helping educate our people in choosing the best and the brightest leaders, both in the national and in the local government. And since many of us here, or many of you who are participating in this webinar, come from government, if I'm not mistaken, you are free to express who your candidates are under the civil service rules. Personally, you can say, my candidate is this. Okay? You are not prohibited, but you are prohibited according to civil service rules and regulations from actively campaigning, like joining rallies every day, especially during work hours. Hindi pwede yun, makakasuhan tayo doon ng Civil Service Commission. Pwede ba maglagay ng poster after reading the civil service rules and regulation na pwede ka naman mag-express who your candidate is, ay ako na mag-abogado pagka kayo kakasuhan. Pero kung maglagay ka ng poster mo dyan, that's your expression. Sa bahay mo naman eh. You're expressing yourself, who your candidate is. Ang iwasan lang during government, yung oras ng gobyerno, ginagamit sa pangangampanya, or araw-araw nasa rally ka, you're identified already. But this is inconsistent eh. Yung ganun. Basta sa akin, outside of office work, hour, pwede. But I don't want to put you into trouble. So, baka alam mo, ibang interpretation ng Civil Service Commission. Given time, I will question that. If I get to Congress, I will question that kind of ruling or guideline by the COMELEC. But going back to the question, by all means, everyone is every enlightened citizen of this country, huwag magpabaya kung hindi natin gagawin yung dapat natin gawin bilang isang mamamayan na nagmamahal sa Diyos at bayan, tayo ay nagkakaroon ng pagkukulang. It's our duty as a citizen of this country, law-abiding citizen, wanting to have our dream realized, a better future for our country. Let us go all out there and help educate our people on how to choose the best and the brightest. Ngayon, kung magkano yung ibibigay, ganun ang standard eh. Nagaging standard, no? But I believe in my heart that there is goodness in every person. There is goodness. I mean, hindi naman madilim lahat ang katauhan ng isang tao. If you can appeal to them, explain to them, hold hands with them, I think they will listen and they will realize that yung 100, 200, 500, 1,000 piso, panandaliang aliw ang mas mahalaga yung magagawa ng kandidato kung siya nakaupo para sa ganun mapaganda ang takbo ng buhay sa isang bayan, syudad, probinsya at sa ating bansa.
Thank you, Attorney Lina. Asik Odi, would you like to add something? Yeah, Asik Odi, would you like to add something too?
Yes. The COVID-19 pandemic had really tested leadership competencies of our national and local leaders, natural disasters, and even in the implementation of our development plans. Ang gaganda ng mga plano, mapanuring proseso, pag-aambag ng mga tao, ang gaganda. Pero at the end of the day, ano ang dulo at resulta nito? Leadership is very important. It was emphasized by Senator Joey Lina kanina na napakahalaga, napaka-importante ng liderato. And leadership, steers everything. Para at the end of the day, itong mga plano, devolution transition plan, itong resources under the Mandanas resolution or jurisprudence, proseso, mga sistema, and other partners, tatahiin yon ng isang liderato. And that leader will trigger everything. Kaya please, ang daming forum ngayon para i-educate, i-empower, i-enlighten, and irespeto ang mga choices ng mga tao. Let's seize that opportunity, and by seizing, let's change our perspective by choosing the leader that will really bring result, and driven purpose dapat siya. Salamat.
Salamat, Asik Odi. There are two other questions here that I would like to read because this one is also related to the type of leaders that we are going to elect. So this one is from Ms. Crislin Faolmino. The question is, what safeguards are in place to ensure that the additional budget that will be downloaded to LGUs will not be used for political patronage or politicized delivery of local services? Attorney Joey Lina, are there safeguards?
You see, nabanggit ko kanina, the spring cannot rise above its source. No? Okay. You can forcefully bring the horse to the stream, pero kung ayaw naman niyang uminom doon. So, anong pwedeng gawin ng mga mamamayan? Well, petition. I mean, organize. The people should organize. Use that organization as a leverage. Ang mga politiko takot sa mga tao na organisado eh. Kasi ang organisadong mamamayan ay botong malaki. So, pagka-organisado ang taong bayan, you can go to the mayor. Mayor, pwede ba kasama kami dito sa Local Development Council at itong NGO, pwede kaming observer diyan sa Bids and Awards Committee. And then people can prepare their own ordinances under the Constitution and under the law. People can pass their own ordinances and laws even, and even amend the Constitution. That's under the principle of initiative. It's in the Constitution. It's the people power provision. The people can even amend laws. 3% of every legislative district of the voters and 12% of the entire registered voters, assuming 3% in every legislative district. Pagka nagpirma-pirma yan lahat, pwedeng mag-amend ng saligang batas. Ganon din sa probinsya, syudad, bayan, ang mga konseho, kapag hindi nila gawin yung nararapat na ordinansa na kung paano gagamitin ang pondo ng pamahalaan pagka nag-uusap tungkol sa budget, and the people themselves can petition that certain amount should be given to this, to that, etc. Then if that becomes a petition, that becomes an ordinance that will be proposed directly by the people, then it is possible. It is possible that the people can take the cudgels on behalf of the council if the council is obstinate and will refuse to heed the demands of the people for how the money should be spent. Nandiyan yan, ang mekanismo yan. Ang kinakailangan talaga, gamitin ng taong bayan. Yang ganyang mekanismo na nasa atin ng local government code, yung petition for ordinances, even barangay, pwede yan. Maybe din one of these days we can have a webinar on how the people can engage the government. Through NGOs, through petition. I think that will be a good subject matter as a continuing education of our people in the area of governance.
Yes. Dean, would you like to respond?
Yes, that would be great po, Senator Ina. And we hope we can invite you again.
At your service, Dean. At your service.
Salamat po.
Okay. Sec Odi, would you like to add something about safeguards being in place?
Yes. Under the EO 138 and even in the EO 138, may mga provisions doon on the safety nets. That's why DBM, NEDA, the DILG, the members of the Committee on Full Devolution sat down and fortified the oversight standards and the MNE. But more than that, the DILG rallies ito or champions itong functionality ng mga existing Meron tayong full disclosure policies. Okay. So the devolution transition plan kasi kaya ginawa ng DILG yan and other national government agencies para maging roadmap. At ito ang maging bitbit ng ating mga overseers such as NEDA, DBM, COA, DILG at lahat ng mga national government agencies para i-guide at ituwid din ang mga lokal na pamahalaan, particularly using our performance assessment. We have the Seal of Good Local Governance. And the Seal of Good Local Governance, though it may be an incentive mechanism or assessment, but then it will also result later on in terms of calibrating services standards or establishing services standards na magiging panuntunan ng ating mga lokal na pamahalaan. We have also this established civil society citizen satisfaction index wherein ang ating mga the availability, accessibility, the efficiency of service standards from agriculture, environment, tourism, and the like at the local level are being measured and at the same time assessed by our partners from the state colleges and universities, from civil society. Marami tayong mga state colleges and universities na kabahagi dito sa CSIS na to And you know, the DILG, hindi tayo nagkulang sa ating mga infrastructure projects. We have this subaybayan. Ang ganda nito. Itong subaybayan na to ay kalahok dito ang mga mamamayan. Lalo na doon sa mga lalo na dun sa mga area wherein the projects are established or being implemented. So again, the functionality of these, kung kulang man to, is strengthen natin under the EO provisions. In sync with the
Okay, thank you very much, Asek Odi. So it's good to know that there are safeguards in place. May magagawa tayo if you really want to do things right. Okay, so we received a lot of interesting questions this morning. Thank you, Attorney Pasaraba, Attorney Joey Lina, for answering the questions from our participants. But in the interest of time, we have to end the open forum. We will collate the remaining questions and send them to our guest speakers, and hopefully many of our participants today were satisfied with the discussion that we had this morning. So next in our program will be the awarding of our tokens of appreciation for the time and knowledge that they have shared with us. So the University of the Philippines, Los Baños College of Public Affairs and Development would like to award this plaque of appreciation to Attorney Odilon L. Pasaraba in grateful recognition for serving as guest speaker during the CPAf 24th anniversary celebration with the theme Policy Forum on Mandanas Ruling and Our Local Leaders, given this 4th day of February 2022 at the College of Public Affairs and Development, University of the Philippines, Los Baños, Laguna, signed Rowena D.T. Bacongis, Dean of CPAf. So thank you, Attorney Pasaraba.
The pleasure
And
is mine.
also-
Maraming salamat din, and of course to the college.
Yes po. And also, we would also like to present our plaque of appreciation to Attorney Jose D. Lina Jr. So let me read the citation. The University of the Philippines, Los Baños College of Public Affairs and Development would like to award this plaque of appreciation to Attorney Joey D. Lina Jr. in grateful recognition for serving as the guest speaker during the CPAf 24th anniversary celebration with the theme Policy Forum on Mandanas Ruling and Our Local Leaders, given this 4th day of February 2022 at the College of Public Affairs and Development, University of the Philippines, Los Baños, Laguna. Signed, Rowena D.T. Bacongis, Dean of CPAf. Thank you very much, Attorney Lina.
It's my honor and pleasure to be one of your speakers today. Mabuhay po ang University of the Philippines, Los Baños College of Public Affairs and Development. Maraming salamat din, Rowena Bacongis. Maraming salamat.
Thank you.
Yes, and we'd also like to present our certificates of appreciation to our discussants. So let me read the citation. The University of the Philippines, Los Baños College of Public Affairs and Development would like to award this certificate of appreciation to Professor Mayo Gracie Amit in grateful recognition for serving as discussant during the CPAf 24th anniversary celebration with the theme Policy Forum on Mandanas Ruling and Our Local Leaders, given this 4th day of February 2022 at the College of Public Affairs and Development, University of the Philippines, Los Baños, Laguna, signed Rowena D.T. Bacongis, Dean of CPAf. Prof. Amit, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And next, of course, we would also like to present our certificate of appreciation to Dr. Vela Atienza. Let me read the citation. The University of the Philippines, Los Baños College of Public Affairs and Development would like to award a certificate of appreciation to Dr. Vela A. Atienza in grateful recognition for serving as discussant during the CPAf 24th anniversary celebration with the theme Policy Forum on Mandanas Ruling and Our Local Leaders, given this 4th day of February 2022 at the College of Public Affairs and Development, University of the Philippines, Los Baños, Laguna. Signed, Rowena D.T. Bacongis, Dean of CPAf. Okay. And of course, we will not let our guest speakers and discussants go without a photo opportunity with them. So to all our panelists, Asek Pasaraba, Attorney Joey Lina, Dr. Atienza, Professor Amit, the steering committee and program committee members and technical staff, may we request you to please open your cameras and our technical team will capture our photo. Guys?
1, 2, 3. Number 1 po. 1, 2, 3. Thank you po.
Okay, thank you very much. So thank you once again to our guest speakers and discussants. So before we proceed to the second part of our program, we will have a short break. So we hope you can still join us after the break. We will have an 8-minute break.